Hello and welcome to Campfire Conversations, stories from the center of the universe, where we bring the stories from our campfire to your ears, wherever you are in the world. Here we chat to friends over a favorite drink, enjoy the crackle of the fire, and let the real stories of life in the bush be told. Let's get talking to some bushveld legends and hear about their finest hours, the moments that made them question it all, and what keeps them coming back for more.
Yeah, they knock a glass over, they dance it hard, it's awesome. Okay, here we are. Welcome to another episode of Campfire Conversations, coming to you live from Tulela, luxury exclusive use in the magnificent Klaserie Game Reserve. We are inside this afternoon. It is too windy in the fire pit. Here we are in the lounge, feeling comfortable. I am 7.5 hours behind on my sleep, and I might fall asleep on this very comfortable couch. There were 2 bottles of whiskey demolished last night. These guys, this gang went out and tracked a male leopard solo this morning, had a glimpse of him, and we're waiting for him to come and drink at the waterhole. It is 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and here we go. We have some awesome guests with us who've been with us since yesterday. Wild Wonderful World. The team from Wild Wonderful World is gathered here in the lounge, not around our campfire. Michelle Campbell, Grant Pengilly, and Jonty Bozas certainly have some stories to tell from their hands-on work in the conservation sector and many hours spent on the road, on foot, and in the air, putting in work for wildlife. Joined by a true passion for connecting people with nature through ethical and sustainable safari experiences. These 3 now work together at Wild Wonderful World, Michelle and Grant as its founders, and Jonty joining the team as a private guide. Michelle and Grant mutually suffered and succumbed to khaki fever after they met as guides in the bush, and have since survived the ultimate test of time, living in a Land Rover called Kuhanya for over a year. Grant is originally from Johannesburg, started his safari guiding in the Eastern Cape, and is a helicopter pilot. Doesn't get cooler than that. His opa was an honorary KNP ranger. Michelle, born in Africa, raised in Asia, schooled in Europe. Qualified economist with a career in banking, which she traded for the bush. Her father grew up in Zimbabwe and regaled the kids with stories. During their travels, these 2 came across a kudu stuck in a fence along the Central Kalahari Game Reserve cut line, and the video of that rescue now has over 10 million views on YouTube. Helicopter pilot and 10 million views on YouTube. Go check it out. What do you search? Kudu stuck in fence?
Kudu rescue.
Okay,
yeah.
awesome.
Something
Cool.
along those lines.
Jonty is originally from Zululand, where his childhood was spent on a game farm, inevitably creating an unbreakable bond with nature and particularly elephants. Schooled in the UK and back to SA to work as a private guide at some of the best safari locations in the country. Pinda, Mala Mala, Kwandwe and Singita. That is a list and a half. Now a private guide at Wild Wonderful World. In 2020 he was involved in pandemic initiatives including photos for food, selling photos to support Nourish, our very good friends. He also, which he'll tell us about, did a 20-day walk in Zululand with his brother David, raising money for Zululand Conservation Trust and the relocation of 20 rhinos. Here we go. Break the ice. Animal sound or joke? Jonty.
Animal sound.
Go for it.
Hey, I thought you were going to
Sean's
tell me
going to
one.
identify it.
I thought you were going to give me one to try
No,
and do.
buddy. Yeah, you can do it.
You choose a joke or an animal sound.
Oh, no, I chose animal sound. No, I'm going to go joke. I'll go joke.
Okay.
How do you make a handkerchief dance?
I don't know.
You put a little boogie in it.
Okay, good.
Yes. That's power.
Grant, over to you, my man.
Well, there's definitely one that I've been practicing for a long time, which is an animal sound. Of one we might know very well and gets everyone quite excited, the vervet monkey alarm calling.
Wow, awesome, man. The best sound that a guy can hear in the bush.
Yeah.
Taught by
That
a
is
citrus
so cool.
farmer in the Eastern Cape.
Very nice. And he's got talents. That's awesome, man. Over to you, man.
You want me to
Michelle.
go after that?
We'll give you some time. You can come back later.
Okay,
Cool?
that's
But
cool.
we're going to get you at the end.
I'm sure you
Something
will.
good. That was amazing, man. The vivid monkey. You guys, welcome. It's awesome to have you here.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
we
for
really
having us.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
So, I mean, why don't we start with Michelle and Grant, I think, I've got a question from V. Big up to Chicago and big up to Frank and Gary. Very good friend of mine. And she says, this trip in Africa, a year. I have so many questions. How many times were you broken down or stuck? I mean, I think, can you guys just tell us about the trip? Tell us about breaking down your favorite country, how you are still together. I mean, it's something that I think, I dreamed of. I'm not sure I'll ever do it, but when I was younger, it was something that I really dreamed of doing. Eh?
Well, I think we dreamed of doing it as well. And we just wanted to get out into Africa, explore a little bit more, go off the beaten track, and get involved with as many different conservation projects as we could. And the cheapest way to do that was to live in a Land Rover for a year.
Yeah.
I won't talk about the breaking down bit because Grant get a bit sad, but it only happened once in the whole year.
No way.
Yeah, in terms of an actual breakdown, yeah.
Hectic. And the car's actually sitting here right now.
Yeah, she is. She's parked outside in full working order.
Amazing.
That question is often prompted by the fact that it is a Land Rover Defender. Everyone's like, wow, how many times did you break down? And I always take pride in saying only once.
Wow.
And it was actually ended up being quite a story. Because of, one, the place where we broke down and the proximity to, obviously, spares, which is quite surprising. But when it happened, we were on an afternoon drive in Ruaha National Park in southern Tanzania. This was about, when was it? It was April. So we were about 7 months into our trip. And afternoon drive, we actually overshot the camp on the way back to go and watch the sunset, in a nice open area that we had seen.
So romantic.
And as we were going past the camp, I felt the clutch change in the way that it was doing its job. And anyways, I was like, it's fine, probably just part of being a Land Rover. And then eventually, before we got to the sunset spot that we had planned, it just gave up completely. So the clutch stopped working. We actually, Mish has a video on her phone of how we had to deal with figuring out where the problem lay in the clutch system. After getting a strong squirt of brake fluid in the eyeball, which is...
After which, that was the first time we had to bleed the system, so Grant had to explain to me how to bleed the system. He's quite a good mechanic, so that helped a lot.
Yeah.
But he was under the car telling me to push all the pedals. So the first time we got the brake fluid in the eye. But because we were traveling for so long, we had taken quite a few random things. For example, we wanted to go snorkeling in, where was it, Malawi and also Tanzania to look at all the cichlid fish in the Great Lakes.
Yep.
So we had a snorkel with us. And, the goggles and the snorkel. So the second time round, Grant went under the car with the mask on. And, no more brake fluid in the eye.
In Tanzania.
That's amazing.
Anyways, it wasn't the fact that the clutch fluid had leaked out. It was a mechanism in the clutch that had broken, which is standard. It's not a Land Rover thing, everybody. It's standard mechanics. How many clutch presses has a car that's done 300,000 kilometers been through? So, anyways, the piece ended up caving in, and we managed to get the car moving by nudging it down the road with the engine running and slipping it into gear.
Who nudged it down the road?
Mish had to do the pushing.
I pushed the car and then had to run next to the car to jump into it.
Jump in the moving vehicle.
Ladies pushing.
Yeah. He didn't trust me to put it into gear.
Anyways, we got it back to camp. We spent the night there and we did the same procedure to get it out of the reserve the next morning. And the next few days were a steep learning curve because in the back of the car I had the Haynes workshop manual, which clearly explains in a clean, dust-free environment, remove the gearbox from the car to get to the clutch mechanism. Now, we were in a very basic camp without electricity or running water, lying in the grass seeds in the dust. Me and a guy, I forget his name, I think his name was John, but they called him a fundi. He was which is someone who's basically good at something, whether it's selling cell phones or fixing Land Rovers. He was a Land Rover fundi. And so me and this guy who couldn't speak English, only Swahili, and me who had no Swahili, had to follow the procedures in my Haynes manual, or me trying to follow the procedures watching him throw the nuts and bolts into the sand, and me trying to keep them and count each one so that I made sure that they were all there when we put it back together. Proceeded to take the gearbox off, clutch mechanism out, found the problem, phoned, by chance happened to go through a spares shop in the last town, which was Iringa, which is about a 3-hour drive away. Phoned the guy and asked if he had this part, which he didn't. This is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He said he'll have it at the shop tomorrow morning. He'll order one from Dar es Salaam. He'll have it at the shop tomorrow morning, and he'll put it on the 9 o'clock bus, which will arrive at us at 4 o'clock the next afternoon.
Awesome.
You're talking southern Tanzania, miles from any form of technology. And yeah, sure as nuts, in the little town called Tungamalenga, the bus rolled in with 5,000 people on it, and the one oak jumped off with a yellow package in his hand, looking for the very conspicuous couple of white people sitting in the camp waiting for the package, and he ran over, and I think I paid him 3,000 shillings, which I think is about $30 or something along those lines. No, it wasn't even that much. Anyways, new brake fluid, new clutch part, back to the camp next morning, put the new part on, gearbox back on, minus 2 bolts. 2 bolts went missing.
Yeah.
They're still not there, but it's still in the car. And yeah, anyways, the same clutch part is still in, and the car carried on for the rest of the journey without any problems. So
Incredible, man.
good story.
That's
Yeah.
a great story.
Yeah.
That is super cool.
Yeah, it was a hell of an adventure, and it comes from the same, like you said, it's just been something that I've wanted to do my whole life. I mean, Jonty and I've spent many days imagining doing a trip like that as well, and Mesh and I got the opportunity when we sort of moved out of full-time guiding and just put it all into the Land Rover and drove north. Yeah, until we ran out of money, and then
So how long did you travel for, and then how?
it
far
ended
did
up
you go,
being
and-
it ended up being 13 months of traveling, because we got to Tanzania at that point we were going to run out of money, so we had to decide whether to turn around from northern Tanzania on the western corridor of the Serengeti and head back south, or carry on. And the people that we were staying with put us in touch with some guys in Kenya that could host us for 2 weeks while we helped out at their conservation project called Mara Elephant Project in the Mara North Conservancy, which wasn't going to cost us a lot. So we went over to Kenya, we stayed there for 2 weeks, at which time we were going to turn around, and they put us in touch with a couple in Laikipia in northern Kenya, and they were looking for someone to manage a lodge for 3 months. And
Which we'd never done before, but we said yes anyway.
yeah, small,
Why not?
small camp, and this just gave us the opportunity to extend the trip, sort of with no real end
Yes.
to it. So we went up there and worked at that camp for 3 months, and
In Laikipia.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That was
I don't know if you've
beautiful
ever
up
been
there.
Yeah.
Brevi zebra,
Well, I
reticulated
did this
giraffe.
trip to see that we saw the black leopard there.
No way,
Yeah.
It was my moment of life glory.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
And
epic.
so like Laikipia, like my best
Yeah.
place in the world.
It
Yeah.
was beautiful.
But it's a crazy place, as you say,
Yeah.
Brevi,
Yeah, you're on that frontier between when things start getting kind of
Yes.
Sahara-ish. You
The
know, you
bad
start seeing
lands.
Gerenuk
Yeah.
and
Yes,
Somali
Gerenuk.
giraffe. I mean, Somali
Vulture and
ostrich.
guinea
and,
fowl.
Yes,
That was very
yes, yes.
Anyway,
the
so that-
vulture
I
and
mean-
guinea fowl.
You know, that was a game changer, because we were going to turn around in the Serengeti, and that just offered us an opportunity to loop in things like Samburu National Park in
Yes.
Kenya, and
Yeah.
and then extended the trip into Uganda. The
We-
furthest north we went was Murchison Falls
Yeah.
National
Uh-huh.
Park.
Well, we got to do a lot of bucket list items that we wouldn't have been able to afford to do otherwise. So we saw the shoebills in Uganda and trekked gorillas, trekked chimps. It was
Wow.
epic.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then did a very slow drive all the way back south, down through Tanzania. Stopped at, what's that big lake, Lakeshore Lodge?
Yeah, Lake Baringa in Kenya. Favorite place in Kenya after Samburu National Park was Lake
Oh
Baringa.
no, I meant the one in Tanzania. The big one.
Oh, Lakeshore Lodge on Lake Tanganyika. which is
Tanganyika.
epic,
And
yeah.
just checking all those cool little cichlid fish.
Yes.
Insane. No, we
Why
had many
did you
memories.
like Samburu and like Baringa?
Samburu, I don't know what it is for me, like desert areas. I love the Lowveld and love living here in the bush, is my favorite type of bush, but something about those desert areas, so the Kalahari is also a good example, and I don't, it just feels like you're on a sort of frontier, and I used that word earlier, but you're just on the edge of nothingness, you know, it's just desert and harsh, and It's just such a contrast to what we used to hear with trees and life, and it's so lush
And the cultures as well. There's
yeah,
the
I mean, the
Kok
Samburu
people.
walking around in their traditional dress, and it's just something we don't see a lot of. So I suppose the contrast is what grabs me.
Yeah.
And then Lake Baringa was just amazing. It was such a peaceful, small lake. One of the lakes in the Rift Valley. It's actually at the narrowest point of the Great Rift Valley in Kenya, and just bird species that we'd never seen before. But it was just, I think at the time of the year that we were there as well, the air was so sweet. You couldn't breathe enough of it into your lungs. All the acacias were flowering. It was also quite an arid part of Kenya, covered in thorn trees, and they were all flowering. And it just stuck in my mind as one of my favorite places. Yeah.
Michelle, if you go back to one place or one park that kind of stands out, or a country, or
I think Uganda.
Really, eh?
From all of the adventures that we had there, have never been anywhere as mind-blowing as that. I think especially Bwindi, and that it really is an impenetrable forest.
Yeah.
When we were trekking gorillas, Grant fell over 3 times because he was so busy looking up and around.
Yeah.
I mean, there would be a whole fallen tree across the path, and he tumbled straight over it.
But it was.
Yeah, and you can you put your
It's
foot in
mind-blowing.
like a tangle. You think that's the ground, and the next one is not actually the ground.
Rolling through the bushes, like I'm crawling out covered in mud, like Mish was killing herself.
Yeah.
But everything, the birds, the wildlife, the roads. I mean, we got stuck on one of these back dirt roads, driving from Murchison Falls to Bwindi.
Yes,
And there was a
done that trip.
huge banana truck that had got bogged down at the bottom of a hill, and then obviously cars had tried to overtake on both sides, also got stuck. One of them was a UN vehicle, and we were super lucky. We had some rad sponsors during our trip, so we had all of our Ironman kit, and we used our Ironman snap straps and all sorts of things to pull all the other vehicles out either side, so we could go around. And then Shane.
We didn't get stuck, but
We
I've
didn't get
literally
stuck.
scraped past the banana truck. Kuhanya's got some scars to bear from that experience.
Really, eh?
Managed to get past this This banana truck was massively overloaded as well. I mean, it must have been, I don't know, guess the weight of the truck, but tons and tons. And this little Land Rover, we squeezed past on the side. And I remember one of the many people that were there offering advice, which is quite overwhelming.
Yes.
When you can't speak their language, all the shouting, different instructions. As we got past, the one guy called me and he pointed at the truck. He's like, "No, you must say pull this one." I was like, "That dog's not going to."
I'm out of here.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah.
Wow,
It was an
that road is
adventure for
crazy, and when
Yeah.
it's wet,
And that
it's
red mud, yeah.
I mean, it's actually pretty scary in some places. We're in an overland truck, and
Yeah.
you're quite high, and the road's slippery, and
I
you
can
look
imagine.
down
Yeah.
this edge into this massive valley.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm keeping a straight face because I'm with the guests, but I'm like, whoo-wee.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Damn, you don't want to slip down
treacherous.
here.
Literally
Yeah.
driving above the clouds in some of those
exactly.
places.
Yeah. So beautiful, though.
amazing.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
I mean,
Yeah.
but that whole area was incredible. The whole country's incredible. But it also, for me, had a really lasting impact with the things that we saw from the pillaging of the country as well. You know,
Yes.
where you see these mining companies going into Murchison Falls
Yeah.
National Park and just cutting a corridor
Terrific,
of
huh?
100-year-old trees down so that they can get their massive mining trucks in and out.
Yeah,
and
that
then-
was horrific to
Frightening,
see.
yeah.
That
I
was
mean,
horrific.
yeah.
And then even Bwindi, right up until the boundary of Bwindi National Park, it's been demolished for farmland.
Yeah.
And there is nothing left. I mean, that is a tiny sanctuary
Yeah.
left for those gorillas. And if you're not working with those communities around the edge, they're not going to be there for very long.
Absolutely.
So I think from the conservation standpoint of what we were trying to do as well, it was probably one of the places that really had a lasting impact and very much fueled us to take a step forward to try and figure out what we could do to try and help going forward as well, and bringing people in and educating. And I mean, there's so many crazy things going on in all these different African countries that nobody has any idea until you're driving through and you're seeing for yourself what's going on. You can't even understand it. You know, when somebody says, "Oh, but you know, all the bush and the forests are being lost to farmland," you do not know what that means until
it's not that simple.
you're driving past it. Yeah. But yeah, lots of memories, lots of highs, lots of lows.
Yeah, and like you said, how are we still together? I mean, that's why we've decided that it's going to last.
We're still friends.
No, for sure.
You can spend that long in a car with somebody and not rip each other's heads off.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty good
Absolutely,
going.
man.
Lots of
Traveling-
long, quiet sections where you don't have to talk all the time. You know, everyone's like, "Yes, what did you talk about?
Yeah.
Did you listen to music? You try to listen to music in a Land Rover. It's not
No,
the most
on a
acoustic.
corrugated road.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, so lots of long, quiet stretches. Hot. The air conditioner in that car is not great. So
The knee cooler.
yeah, we managed to pull through that and came out stronger than ever. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's-
Put a ring
Sorry
on
about that. I think a child got dragged off by hyenas just now in the background. We just ignored it. I didn't want to interrupt you. Will you go look for that child, James? Wow, man.
yeah. No.
So, I do want to hear more about the trip. Really do. Jonty, this is the longest. I've known you for 24 hours. This is the longest you've been quiet.
I've got to know there's a good story coming up.
And I was told last year that I need you on this podcast. You got a good story coming out. I'm going to hit you now, man. But while we're inspired, I want to know about Wild Wonderful World. What did start burning inside of you when you decided to do this trip, and what are you doing now? I mean, I'm fascinated by Wild Wonderful World because a lot of people out there, we are conserving and we put 5% of our bookings into conservation, or we planting 3 trees, or we support this. A lot of it is wishy-washy nonsense. There's some extremely dedicated people out there who are just changing the world on a daily basis, but there's a lot of, we are ecotourism and conservation, but I mean, I think your business certainly stands out to me as really a little something different.
Thank you. I think
well, thanks first of all.
we've tried to make it that. At the end of the day, we want to make a difference, and that's the driving force behind everything that we do. We wanted to use our skills to empower other people and connect other people. So there was 2 things I think that we walked away with after our expedition. The first was people need to see this, otherwise they're not going to understand, and they're not going to feel how we're feeling right now, that we have to take action. And the second is that we learned that everybody just needs money. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Well, money allows people to buy equipment, pay security or anti-poaching units, or put fuel in a helicopter or a Land Rover. Or
as you say, there's projects and people out there doing the most incredible things, but they all need
it all costs money,
the ability to do it. So we decided to pool our resources of what we could do, and we figured that the safari side of our company, we know we know guiding
tourism.
well, we know tourism. Let's bring people in, let's give them the experience of not just a safari, but let's educate, use
show
it as
them
an
some
opportunity.
of the stuff that we saw, while traveling through, which is kind of the objective of the whole trip.
Yeah. Give them the opportunity to connect to a conservation experience so that they understand. Conservation is a word that's thrown around all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think everybody really understands what it means until you involved on the ground. And even then, you're only getting a small glimpse into what is going on. And that's what we wanted to do. So we do fundraise through our safaris. The money that we make off of a trip goes into our trust. And then you talk about, everybody pledging money to this, that, and the other. We wanted to make sure that whatever funding we're providing is followed up on. We know where it's going, but it's not just people giving money and then never hearing about what's happened. We report back, we write a report, we send photographs, we send
really
videos.
Try and connect that person or donor. We don't, donor sounds very bland, but connect those people to the work that's been done, or the work that's been made possible by
Because
the
of
funding
them,
that's been provided. So, Mish writes up quite a comprehensive report on where the money went, how it was used, what the experience was like. This is if the people can't join.
Yeah.
If they can,
Please
then
join.
they'll absolutely
That's
come with and
that's
see
the
what it's
thing.
all about. And I mean, my passion, Jonty was there for most of these experiences as well. And, being a guide and working on these game reserves allowed us the opportunity to get involved with a lot of the stuff on the ground. If you're not hosting guests at the time, you're out helping with a rhino, lion, whatever conservation job was being done on that particular reserve at the time. And that just kind of lit a flame, and was like, this is the work that we want to try and get done and be involved with, and show people give people that opportunity to feel what we felt when we did that stuff. So
Yeah. And I think connecting people, one of the biggest things that we found even before we started our trip was, where do you start? There's so many issues, and how are just one person, two people, how are we going to make a difference? You can't on your own. And even if you offer your own skills, you've done all of this research and you finally find a project that you identify with and you say, cool, I'm going to go help them. And then, okay, so what? It's now one little project and you're working in one little reserve. Again, you have this feeling of, well, it's not enough. It's not an impact that's going to be long-lasting. And what we really want to do is, you said the word earlier, it's to collaborate. It's to bring people not just within Africa, not just conservationists, veterinary teams, but donors from abroad, anyone who's remotely interested in making a difference. Rather than everybody fighting their own little corners, let's try and bring it in all together, and let's make our each single person impact suddenly far bigger felt. And simply that's really what we're trying to do, is to have that impact and to make a difference.
Awesome. And I mean, from what I see, you are doing that, it's incredible. It's awesome. So this, I can come on safari with you, and I can come out from the US and I can spend 7 days with you, and we go on safari, and then I'll participate in this experience, say what?
It's up to you.
Yeah.
And I think
Because,
that's also what's
I
cool,
mean,
is
this
what
is
are you interested in?
Fascinated James and I.
Yeah.
So there's two facets, that, and then I can go on your website and I can also pay for an experience, but I'm not there. I mean, just tell us.
Yeah, so I think what's really important is that everybody identifies to a different cause, or whether it be a different species of animals. So it's giving everybody an opportunity to say, okay, I'm really passionate about pangolins, about gorillas, about rhinos. I want to make a difference, but there's millions of projects for each of those. How do I do that? So we work with lots and lots of different projects throughout Africa, and you can either get in touch and say, okay, I really want to get involved with some pangolin conservation, and then we say, cool, these are the different projects we're working with. Do you want to come out and see them for yourselves, plus do a safari on the side, in which case that's rad.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't want to travel, but you still want to help. So then on our website, we've got a number of what we call Shop for Wildlife, and
Yeah,
you
I
can.
thought this was radical. I really did.
So it's a donation, but it's a donation where you call the shots on where your money's going. It's not going to salaries. It's not going to buy, a vehicle for a dude and his family, which, don't get me wrong, they need as well.
For sure.
But you're saying, I've got this money, I want to make a difference. Okay, let's look at all these different products, whether it be a wild dog collar or a pangolin tracking chip, or you want to put it towards dehorning a rhino or helping snared animals, and you call the shots, and then that's reported back to you as well. So
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's awesome, and I think anybody listening should go check it out. Wild Wonderful World and their shop of conservation donations. It's so cool. It's really cool. I loved it.
Yeah, Mitch was walking through the bush the other night putting up a bee's nest that was bought by somebody who wanted to contribute a bee's nest for the Elephants Alive.
Bees, trees, and honey. Bees, trees, and elephants.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
I know a bit about the project, but tell us.
Yeah,
so you've just done that, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's just, it's trying to be a little bit diverse and not just focusing on the big five wildlife support. There's so many different things that needs protecting, and our wild spaces of one of them. And Elephants Alive, I know you know Michelle Henley, they run a really superb project called Bees, Trees and Elephants, where they're protecting iconic tree species. And they did a 5-year study with bees, trying to find out if they can put a beehive in various areas, whether it'll keep the elephants away from either stripping the bark off the trees and killing them, or pushing the trees over. And it was a hugely successful study. So now it's ongoing support to help provide beehives for iconic trees to protect the landscapes in which all these animals are living.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that is cool. It's deep, and it's crazy to some of the things. Obviously, seeing the habitat destruction all over the planet, it's heartbreaking, and the pressure on natural protected areas throughout the African continent and the world. And as you say, it is overwhelming. But I'm like always just to think, each person can make a difference, and obviously collaborating with you guys and putting those resources is awesome. So, geez, I hope it
Absolutely.
only gets
Thank
bigger
you.
and better. Hey,
Thank
I mean,
you so much.
truly. So that's awesome. Literally living the dream at the same time. My man Jonty, let's ease it up a bit.
I was letting them tell the story. I just joined as a guy who turns the steering wheel.
No, Jonty, you do more than that.
Underrating yourself. My man, the list of lodges you have worked at is very impressive. I love it. And I mean, also the exposure to all of these different places. So tell us about it, man. Tell us about you and what you're up to and who you are. And I mean, I guess, just your experience at all these amazing places. These are big names.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate, and like Grant mentioned, we've been kind of mates for a long time now at a lot of those.
So you guys go back to and beyond.
Yeah.
Or hard,
Yes.
Yeah. I met Grant, I can't remember the name of the pub in Joburg.
Okay.
He was on leave, and my mate who I did my training with, he said there's one oak at Quandre who's a good oak.
And it wasn't him.
And it's, James is a good oak. But,
Okay, this is awesome.
yeah, we high-fived each other. It was a solid connection.
Obviously, here you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could tell from one high five that we were going to be mates. Yeah, solid judgment call. But yeah, so just very fortunate to move around between those lodges. I did my best to not be allowed back to many of them in my youth. But yeah, I suppose I found myself in Hoedspruit. We spoke about it, Grant, Michelle, and I. We said, yes, Hoedspruit's so epic. We need to end up there. That's where we've got
It's the
to.
center of the universe, man.
That's where we've got to get to. We were actually looking at properties together. We were going to go in on a house to rent just to get in.
Yeah.
And I shot one past the goalie, so I had a child on the way. And we decided to share a house would have been a bit
The dynamic
Oh,
shifted.
yeah.
a bit chaotic, but we had all decided to make the move, and we ended up in Hoedspruit all together, which is epic. And then
Wow.
I finished off at Singita
Yes.
in that time that sort of Grant and Mishi had been away on their expedition and then setting up Wild Wonderful World. And then, COVID.
Yeah.
Our good old friend
Yeah.
rolled in. And we'd always spoken about doing stuff together, and I had other friends who were sort of in the booking game, and like you mentioned now, it's the add-on and the genuine, not that the other guys don't have it, but I just felt a much bigger connection with Wild Wonderful World, with Grant and Michelle, and with the bigger picture of what we actually want to try and do. So that
Yeah.
was something epic that I wanted to get on board with,
Yeah.
and I fortunately am now. And set up a thing called Photos for Food. You mentioned
Yes.
in the beginning. It was just also us talking again, saying, as guides, we all end up with hard drives of images
Yeah.
that we all think people are going to pay $1,000 for. And it was just a way of thinking, well, none of us had income coming in, and the thousands of people who live on the margins outside these reserves also struggling
Yep.
even more than we are. So we just thought we'd set up a thing where people could buy a digital print, and half of the money would go to food parcels.
Yep.
So essentially half of the cost of a digital copy would feed a family for a month through Nourish, and then the other half would go to the guide who gave the picture. So
Yeah.
just so that to help guys sort of get through that. And
Absolutely.
the long-term vision was that when things come back, all of the money can go to food parcels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's
Awesome, man.
very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's epic.
I'm just happy that things are opening up again, so we can all get back into the bush
Yeah, absolutely.
and start getting more.
It's been tough, man. It's been what a crazy 14, 16 months.
Yeah, but it's cool, like all these things. If life was simple, it would be so boring. So it's
Absolutely.
cool to have these challenges to overcome, and things that come out of them. We've had a lot more chance to have a bit more whiskey and sit around
Yeah.
the fire and come up with more ideas
Awesome.
and more sort of people to collaborate with and just push all these ideas even further.
Yeah.
Like we both said, if your ideas don't frighten you, if your plans don't frighten you, then it's not really worth doing. So
That's awesome.
that's the serious side of me.
I love that, man. That was deep. That's a good quote.
Yeah, it comes out every sort of 5 years. A bit of serious.
Okay, so let's get into it. Tell us about something about one of these two that they or me don't know.
Something about these two.
Yeah.
You've got a lifetime of ammo on Grant.
Or maybe that they wouldn't be telling me themselves.
Well, well, we obviously didn't have enough whiskey last night because Grant didn't end up on the roof.
Is that a thing? Eh?
Yeah. If he gets to that level, he'll be on top of something.
I know he likes climbing things. Like every time I see this guy, there's a picture of him like in a tree.
Yeah. That's he's like an undercover vervet monkey. I think that's
That's
why
why he does that a lot.
Yeah,
So well.
exactly. It's probably mostly
You have to
him.
understand the animal.
Be the animal. Actually, that also tell us about your the bush baby.
Oh, jeez,
Oh.
like old little Yoda.
Little Yoda. So we had a little rescue with Yoda, the lesser bush baby. He fell out of a roof, abandoned by its mother. And so we raised him with the aim of rehabilitating him back into the bush. And just with little syringes and drip feeding him to start with. And that was 4 months ago.
Yeah, Mish did most of it on her own.
Yeah, Grant was out
Oh,
doing
way.
his flying, so I identify with all you people with kiddies every 2 hours through the night. I was up doing those feeds, and shame,
Yeah, he's actually at home on his own at the moment.
No,
in
that's
a
what I'm
nervous
wondering.
wreck.
yeah, we both,
On his own.
yeah.
Oh.
He's
No.
kind of got into that stage where he takes himself out at night and does his thing and comes back in the morning with freezing cold hands and feet and
Jumps on your
jumps on
face.
us to say how's it and then goes back into his
Yeah.
box and sleeps, does his thing. Next evening, off he goes again.
Yeah.
So yeah,
He's on soft release. He can come back if he
His
wants. If he
natural
wants to stay out, he can.
He's
Wow.
on soft release.
Soft
It's
release
Well, what
from
do you
a
wanna
double
call it?
bed.
like a rehabilitation
Yeah.
program. Yeah. Yeah, no. So
Hard
yeah,
release.
you talk about understanding the animal. They quite, learned a lot about a bush
It was-
baby.
Wow,
Yeah,
and
an
this a bush baby is the
insane
coolest little
insight into
creature.
them.
Very cool.
Yeah, their feet, their
Yeah.
thumbs. It's actually
Yeah, I'll show you
Oh,
some
that's
photos
scary.
just now.
Yeah.
It's quite incredible. Eh?
Super
Yeah.
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, go check out a lesser bush baby. That's awesome, man. My girls would love to meet that.
Yeah, they must
I
come.
must come.
Yes.
Bring them.
He's super
Jonty,
friendly.
most memorable sighting.
Yes, that's a
Yeah, that's hard.
It is.
Guests ask it often,
Yeah.
and it's tricky. When I was at Ngala, this sticks out. One, because it shows how stupid I was, and if it happened now, I would definitely interfere. But it just sticks out because it was so like raw. JD was talking about a sighting like it last night, but we were at a wild dog den, and it was the first wild dogs I had seen, even as a guide, and we had had a few weeks of viewing them around the den, and it was so good. You take the guests there, and you kind of get lost. There's puppies running around. I think there were 26 dogs in total, and one of the guests said, "I can see a lion." And I said, "No, man, what are you talking about?" And then before we knew what happened, a pride of 20 lions ran in
No way.
and just meleeed the pack of dogs,
Wow.
adults, puppies.
Right in front of you.
Yeah, it was
Insane.
awful. I think 6 dogs survived
Wow.
the onslaught that came out, and it's a hectic thing to see. Like, that's not why you want to go on a game drive,
Yeah.
to see that sort of thing. But that's always kind of stuck with me because it was so harsh, and we have these, everyone says we don't interfere, but I don't know, we've interfered a lot. And I think
Yeah.
if I was in that position now, I would have chased the lions away.
Yeah.
like 100%, I would have or tried
Yeah.
to do something. But that sighting always it's always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
pretty grim.
Yeah.
You know, you drive back to. I don't think we even had sundowners. We just
Yeah.
just drove back to the lodge in silence. Everyone went to bed
Yeah.
because you just think this is
What just happened?
unbelievable. Yeah. Just raw. It was a very raw sighting.
No, that's crazy. I mean, so, and like even the same with kills. Everybody wants to see a kill. Until they actually see a kill,
Yeah.
you know. Even
And then they want to leave.
Yeah, literally.
But it's tough, man. Flip that question because then you start thinking.
Yes.
Like, see, there's a book on the shelf there, and it's where one of my earliest encounters. Why I love elephants. But so this was sort of pre-guiding. I was guiding illegally. Didn't have any qualifications. I was 20, just living the dream.
Yeah.
And these elephants had been released on this small property, and like everything was going well. They had settled in, and a guest at 11:15 in the evening wanted to have a bath, and there was no water. So, like, we said to her, listen, I think the elephants have actually ripped up the water pipe. Can you bath in the morning? No, I want to bath right now. Yes, ma'am. So I took a spade and a pipe fitting, and a big Bobber John spanner, because there were no lions on that property and there were no buffalo at the time. So I was quite happy to go and walk, between the lodge and the water tanks and find where they've pulled out the pipe. So I was busy walking there, and there was a section where the boma where they had released the elephants from was up against a riverbank. So there was a game path in and then out. So it was a section like the size of a tennis court where there was only really one way in and out. And I was walking, I didn't even have a torch, it's like a bright full moon. And I was walking with my head down, definitely not cursing the lady who wanted to bath. And I looked up, and there were 3 elephants in front of me. I was like, okay, that's bad. I'll turn around and go back. And the rest were behind me. There were seven of them behind me. And I didn't, I was like, well, this is outrageous, because now I've either got to go jump off of the riverbank into the croc pool, or go climb over the electric fence. And I don't know, I just went and sat down at the base of a tree. Like, there's a big tree, and I went and sat there. And the matriarch, she walked over slowly. And at this stage, the muscle contractions in my sphincter were so strong, my body couldn't go anywhere else. So I just sat there.
Hectic, yeah.
And she put her trunk on my head, like, that sound of them smelling. She touched my body, big rumble. And then she walked off, carried on feeding, and then they all came, one after the next. They touched me like that, and then they just walked off. And it was flipping. Like, I haven't seen gorillas. I haven't been to see them yet, but the way I see it, it's that feeling of this great beast is letting you be there. Yeah. And it's quite humbling, because we're always driving around like heroes, thinking we dominating the space, but they're allowing us to be here. And it was and that was my 21st birthday. It was
wow,
very lekker.
That's epic.
Yeah, so that's also fairly memorable.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, very cool.
Wow, man. Tell us more about guests.
What do you want to know? How much space is on that card?
Keep going.
No, we're always talking about guests and like legendary questions. Bathroom breaks have always got a big chapter in the book.
That always comes up.
Did you ever hear about a lady who wanted to go to the loo just for a wee, and the guy said that's fine, so like in the afternoon drive, he said just hop off, go behind that bush. She said no, I can't, definitely can't go here, like I'm not a heathen. And he said, oh, okay, that's fine. And they carried on driving, and she said, look, I'm getting close to like level 10 here. This is getting pretty bad. And he said, well, we can go back, but they've just found a pride of lions. So you've got one more. Either you go now, because we're going to go to the lions. And she said, no, it's fine. I'll hold it in. And they go to the lions, and the lions start hunting. And they're there for like another 2 hours. And now they're driving back, and she says, listen, I actually have to go now. And he's thinking, well, it's slightly moronic. You could have gone in the daytime. Now it's pitch black, and now she's terrified. And it was a lodge without tracker, so the guide had the spotlight. And he said, okay, I'll shine around. Just go behind the car, like right behind the car. She said, well, everyone's going to hear me. She was like, well,
What have you
like, what have you got on board there? But he said, no, he said, okay, I'll keep the engine running. And she said, that's fine. Just make sure there's nothing. So he said, that's fine. And he said, everyone just look straight, block your ears. And she goes behind the car. And then they just hear her scream. Like, ah! And she runs around the front of the car now, the side of the car, with her pants by her knees. It's like, I've been bitten! So like he's shining the spotlight on her bum. Because he's like, where? Like, where is it? And the guests are sitting on the car, like looking but not looking. You know, like there's a full moon on the side of the car. And she had squatted on the exhaust pipe. So she had branded her anus. Which was pretty outrageous.
Yes, like that. Not allowed.
She didn't go back with the curio. She went home with the flippin' brand.
And a bad attitude.
Yeah. It's better. It's a jointed cactus.
Yeah, who was that? Yes, like.
Okay. Tell me, my main man, Mike Sutherland, says, tell us a story about Sakekile from Kwandwe.
Oh, she's like William Malani. Well, he
Pick up Mike Sutherland,
Sutherland.
Hey,
world's best
Yes.
photographer.
Yes, yes. Well, Sutherland tried to grow a beard, and Saki reckons his hair looks like the roots of an onion.
First of all, Saki was a tracker at Kwandwe, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay, because I don't know who you're talking about.
No,
I actually thought it was
he had quite a
connected.
healthy sense of humour, so you'd throw him in a mixing pot with Jonty, and you can imagine the type of game drive stories you'll come out with.
He's
But,
in his beard
but
like
he-
the
yeah, he's-
roots of an onion.
yeah, so Saki was a tracker at Kwandwe.
Okay,
And still
okay.
is.
Yeah, he's still there.
Wow.
He's just a absolutely beautiful human being
Awesome.
with no filter
And plenty energy.
I love it.
energy. So Kwandwe, we were stoked. Like you see Aardwolf and Batty and Fox and Aardvark, like really good sightings. So people would often come for those specials. And these guests had arrived and they said, we've been coming to the bush for like 10 years, not seen an aardvark. So Saki said, I'll find one for you, broer. He's like, that's my broer. Even to the guest. He's like, Saki, I don't know what that is, but good geest. And we're driving we're driving at night, and this aardvark goes across the road. And Saki just goes, aardvark! And he jumps with the spotlight and rips the cable out of the spotlight. And he just sits there and goes, oh, I'm full.
It broke it.
He broke it, so now we don't have a spotlight. No, I saw the guest of the aardvark for half a second. And
Burning their whole
you
life.
can't even be bleak with the oak.
No, of course.
No, well, he found it.
He
But
was so pumped.
enthusiasm way above.
Yeah.
And I don't, what is the PG here with swear words?
No, man. You're obviously representing your own business, but for me, I have this.
No,
There's
no.
no PG.
No.
Jonty, we chilled.
For Saki,
Yes.
so his other one, the one I'm pretty sure Southers on about. Saki was quite open about his daytime nap habits. And he would like ask you, did you have a good sleep, bro? And he said, yeah, bro, you won't believe what happened. But now this he starts this while we're sitting in a cheetah sighting. So we quiet the cheetah lying there, guests are taking it in, hitting them with a little bit of info. I haven't imparted a fact since 10 years on a game time, but he's sitting there talking nonsense. And Saki just turns to me, "Yara, bro, you won't believe what happened." I said, "What happened?" And the guests are like, they lean forward like, what's this guy going to say? And he says, "While I was sleeping, bro, I thought I was dreaming. And the curtain was on my neck, bro." And I'm thinking, I said, "Where's Saki going with this flippant story?" And the guests are saying like they're getting even more leaning in. And he says, "Bro, I grabbed it. And there was a boomslang on my neck, bro."
What?
So the guests were like, "What?" A boomslinger. And so I said, "Bro, on your neck." Shit, that's hectic.
Yes.
And the guest said, "So what did you do?" He said, "I grabbed it and I threw it and I shouted, 'Yara, yara, fuck, fuck!'"
On game drop in a cheetah.
Oh, the cheetahs like runs away. Yes, he's a good actor.
That's amazing. So for people who don't know, boomslang's the
Serpent.
most venomous snake in southern Africa.
Yeah.
Kill a man at 50 yards just by looking at him.
Yeah.
Like, literally, you'll start hemorrhaging blood.
Yeah, not a good snake.
And he woke up with one on his neck.
Yes.
Do you think he did?
Bro, no, he wasn't like.
That's ridiculous.
And he would get cross with me, like if I do slightly silly things, and he would maybe get charged by something. He'd say, "You don't do that, my bro. You're my friend, bro. I don't want you to die, bro."
He was
just.
And when he put his straight face on, he's like, you try to smile at him, but he just
Yes.
looks at you. He's like, "No, bro,
No.
don't do that."
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
For my farewell at Kwandwe, he said, "Bro, we're going to come. The tracker, we're going to come say goodbye." And I said, "Bro, that's epic." And Sutherland lived in this house, Grant and I,
Wow.
this old farmhouse. But it had actually been converted into an ostrich shed.
Okay.
And
Before or after you lived in it?
No, before. And they like chipped away this tar. They just put tar on the floor. They chipped it away like beautiful yellow wood floors.
Yeah.
It's like 100-year-old farmhouse that guides got to live in the middle of this game reserve. And it was cool. We had like a big veranda, swimming pool. How far is the river? 100 meters?
200 meters.
The fish river there, so you could go fishing. It was like paradise. And so every party was held there. And Saki said, "Yeah, we're coming, bro. What date is it?" I said, "Yeah, this date." Anyway, we go there and we're having a party and no show. So I was like, "Oh, they're probably doing their thing in the staff village or whatever." And then you just see one car roll and another car. There are these taxis coming in.
What?
And then you just hear Saki, because he always said if you sing, you must sing as loud as you can until you lose your voice, bro. Then it's the right volume. And I don't know why, but he had talked all the trackers into dressing as women. And they came dancing down the passage.
You're joking.
Bro, it was like massive.
Okay.
I don't know why. He had a wig, mini skirt. It's like socks in his boob tube.
Oh no.
This is amazing.
Old Saki. So I do like that.
Jeez, respect Saki, man, wherever
Yeah.
you are.
Legendary.
That's awesome. I like that, eh? Who won the bicycle crossing gala? From Ranger Nick Nell. My man. Big up Nick Nell.
Nick.
He's busy doing some push-ups right now.
Nick Null doing deadlift.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was Nick Null might have been
Thanks
there.
for sending the question in, Nick.
He owes me a thank you, I think.
Okay.
He was there on interview that night.
Ah. Oh, yeah.
And we all got revved up and he was part of the Chias. And we said, "Cool, we're going to hit bicycle crossing." And he started walking and I said, "No, you go to bed now, my man.
Yeah.
You're here on interview." And he went to bed.
Jeez, so he owes you.
And then, that's what I told you last night. I mean, 3 naked oaks at bicycle crossing. And one oak came home with no skin on his forehead. Gareth Walker won.
So that was the bicycle crossing gala.
Yeah.
I was crying when you were telling the story last night. Because when he first sent it, I'm like, I don't know what this guy's on about here. Okay, this is awesome. So who won the gala?
So we didn't have a race. Gareth Walker ran and dived into 5 millimeters of water. And that's when we decided there wasn't enough water to swim. So we went back. I think we drank a beer and walked back. Yeah, Nick Nell and the current head guide, will leave names out.
Yeah, let's do that.
But he was also present at that gala function, but we omitted his name from the report. So he got off scot-free.
Really? Oh, and you didn't actually get off scot-free.
No, I was alright, because that was my last night. So it was good for me. I drove out anyway.
Okay.
Gareth Walker took a bit of heat and wasn't allowed to drive guests till he had normal colour skin on his forehead.
That's awesome, man. Oh, Jonty. What's your favourite animal, man?
Also tricky.
All three of you.
I like a black rhino.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
one.
now that I've just raised a bush baby, I genuinely think they're one of my favourite animals.
Yeah,
Such cool little creatures to watch.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
That's a hell of a tough question. I always answer it with at least 5 answers, but
Yeah?
it usually starts off with a hyena.
You
Cool.
The spotted hyena
Yeah,
doesn't get enough credit.
yeah, I agree. What a creature.
Yeah.
What else?
Oh, you want the other 4? There's
yeah.
honey badger's definitely close
Yeah.
behind
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Honourable mention.
Black rhinos in there. You can't leave a leopard out.
Yeah.
No, the
Like
prince,
it just goes elephants.
elephant.
You
Yeah.
spending time with Ellie's, like, you know,
Yeah.
it's a flipping hard question. But
Yeah,
yeah,
those are cool.
we were talking about it last night as well. When hyenas roll onto the scene, in any scenario, whether it's a den site or especially a lion kill or
Yep.
chasing leopards or wild dogs like those, hyenas just bring the action.
Yes,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, love
I
it.
think for me, hyenas, wild dogs are
He's
just
best.
some of my favourite
Best,
sightings
yeah.
involve those two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not favourite sightings, but just crazy
Yeah,
moments.
yeah.
Those things are just crazy.
Your heart's
And the sound.
beating, you
Exactly.
forget how to drive a car, or
Yeah.
you just somehow know how to drive it without looking or doing
At
anything.
anything.
Yeah. You had that sighting on the Sand River with those dogs and hyenas. Anyways, plenty good sightings.
Which one?
Amazing.
No, and you showed me the grass was just covered in blood. There was hyenas running up and down and
Oh,
jumping
yeah,
backwards
no, yeah,
and forwards.
yeah.
It
It
was
was epic.
pandemonium. Yeah.
At Singita, yeah. Just chaos. Like took staff drives that took some of the chefs and stuff out.
Yeah.
And if you know
Yes, wild dogs got to be on the list as well.
Ben Delport,
Mm?
you know Ben?
Yeah, well.
He was on the car, and we were doing at least
Big
Mach.
up Ben Delport.
Oh man, I wonder if his arm's okay, because we were doing some heavy off-piste driving at pace, and a leadwood branch, we hit it, and it came up and hit him on the arm.
No.
And I turned, he said, "We're good." He was just like, "Just keep going." So I was like, "My man."
Yes.
And it's dogs one way, hyenas another way, and then you stop, and in that moment where you're waiting for the dogs to, and impala sort of also in the middle, and you're waiting for that one contact call.
Yeah.
And then fortunately it was a place where we could get the car, and then the dogs had an impala, and then like 3 or 4 hyenas came, 6 or 7 dogs, and then it was just chaos. Hyenas' tails between their legs,
Yes.
screaming.
hyenas whooping, yeah.
Yes.
Just so good.
Yes.
If you want to hear something funny, it's these two imitating hyenas or a clan of hyenas and chaos.
Yes, it's quality.
Okay, we're going to end with that. I can't wait. But that noise, when you hear that noise, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
something cool is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, that's list of favorite animals. Jeez. Tough question.
That's a hard thing to ask a guide.
Yeah, no.
What's
it
your
is, it
favourite
is.
animal?
It changes all the time, you know. I used to say honey badger, like I used to, and then I've definitely had a period where it's elephants. I mean, I love elephants, you know. I really, really love. Not like in a different way. I love going out and finding elephants and watching
Yeah.
elephants. I absolutely
Sit and
love
spend
it.
time with
I
them.
really
Yeah.
do. There's nothing better. I missed out this morning, but for me to go out in the bush and track a leopard and find it is one of my biggest thrills of my life in the bush. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, not even finding it, but actually being out there and on the trail. So I think
Yeah, the process.
I love leopards so much because they are quite elusive, and that thrill when you actually find them gives you so much goodness. Because I go for friggin' 7 days and the impala alarming, you can't find the thing.
Yeah.
You have tracks, you can't find the
No.
thing. You
Yeah.
miss it by 5 minutes.
We were literally talking about the same thing this morning, and I mean the leopard that we saw this morning, which was an amazing sighting. It kind of it forces you to appreciate the character of a leopard, because you know we've worked in
Exactly.
places like that. We've all worked in the Sabi Sands, you
Yes.
know, like, and it allows you to spend such quality time with leopards because they're so relaxed. But it does. I never want to say finding a leopard's easy, but it does allow you to find them
Yeah,
fairly frequently,
Yeah.
sometimes without a lot of effort.
yeah.
And you tend to, I don't know, it's only until you've tracked one, like you're saying, you follow the track through the block, it comes out, it crosses, it walks through a dam, it's drunk here, you know, through the grass or whatever, and you hear that alarm call, and then once you've gone through that process, you really appreciate what it takes to find that elusive cat, you know.
It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone can.
Too good.
That thrill, you know, you can't beat that thrill. And for me, I like a lot of like this experience of safari is about the thrill of the chase. And
Yeah.
actually, that's where the real
magic is.
enjoyment for me
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
in.
I think for most guests as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you speak to anybody who's been a part of that tracking process, that's probably
Yeah.
the most memorable thing, is the art and skill of spending the time, putting in the effort to find whatever it
sure.
is that you're tracking.
Yeah. No, and I mean,
That's
what you guys did this morning is awesome. And that's what we live for. I think, okay, we got to go look for this leopard. I really don't want to actually close this conversation. Like, I really don't. But we do have to go do this.
It's
That's
very
a
look for
important.
this
great idea.
leopard.
Yeah, we really do.
So I am going to wrap it up. But it's been super cool. And I actually don't want to stop. I don't want you guys to stop talking. But we're going to run out of light. So I don't know if you have any parting thoughts or anything you want to say. We'll just wrap it up. My last question, and I do want you guys just to end off so we have an outro of these hyenas. It sounds like we're doing this at night. Mish, first impression of Tulela.
Oh. Well, I think there's many first impressions. I think you could put it like that. I think you've got an absolute gem of a place here. The Mopani, the wildlife, the quiet. It's a little place of paradise.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's so peaceful.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's epic. Anything else, Jamo? Guys, thanks so much. I truly appreciate it.
Thanks,
Wild
Brett.
Wonderful
Thank you for
World
having
at
us.
Wild Wonderful World. I mean, you guys can go and check everybody out on social media. Go have a look at their website. Go have a look at their shop. Definitely.
Yeah.
I also want to buy a
Thank you.
beehive.
Well,
it's
tell
really
you what,
cool.
we'll get a beehive and we'll come and put it up here.
Exactly.
That'll be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it actually.
That'd be
I really have. So go check it out. I'm really serious. Support their work. Yeah. I believe Jonty's on Safari Live next week. So this podcast maybe will drop next week, and you can then stop listening to this podcast and watch him live on Game Drive and hear more of these stories and interesting facts
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
about
Good idea.
trees and termites.
and sucky.
Grant and Saki. Thanks to everyone for sending in questions. We love it. We really want your feedback. Grant, yeah, all the best with
Thanks, man.
flying this helicopter, man. Too
Appreciate
cool,
it.
hey?
Yeah.
And you guys keep up the good work.
Thank you, and you as well. Thank
Thank
you for having
you.
us.
Oh, what a pleasure, man. But I really appreciate it, hey?
Thank you,
can
sir.
find today's guests online via their social media handles linked in this podcast description. Go ahead and give them a follow. Share some love and support what they are doing. We welcome your questions and comments and encourage you to let us know what you think. Peace. Woo! Awesome. So, dudes,
Thanks,
that was epic, huh?
Thanks so much.
Really.
Thank you for joining us. You can find today's guests online via their social media handles linked in this podcast description. Go ahead and give them a follow, share some love, and show some support for what they are doing. We welcome your questions and comments and encourage you to let us know what you're thinking. Who do you want to meet around our campfire, and what burning questions do you have for these bush legends? Find us on social media via the links in the description, and tune in to watch our podcast recordings from around the campfire on our YouTube playlist.
Yeah, they knock the glass over, they dance it hard, it's awesome.